Hi, I ran across this Awaken TV, and so I thought I'd post a video of myself just to let people get a look at me. I've done this before. I did it on this group called Shiva at the Gap convenience store or something like that. But it was an offshoot of Boot at the Gas Bomb, and I did a few videos there, and I told some of my stories, a lot of them, on a few videos, and I posted them there, and they were there for a while. But I just didn't like it. I didn't like the scene there. I didn't like the forum there, so I pulled out of there. But the videos are still available if you want to see them. With it, just do a search on me. And but I promise you that they're all legit. And I am who I am. I am. And so, but I really I wanted you to see what I look like and run through a few things. And I I think I have some keys that might help. And I do have my own religion, and it's kind of off the map a little bit, and people can't relate to it or can relate to it. People are resonating with it or they're not. But it's like I don't fit into anything. I'm not really a Christian, but I do. Jesus is my main teacher, and I draw a lot from him. But I read him completely differently than what the Christians do. So don't look at me as a Christian because I quote Jesus. And I really identify with the Jewish myths. With the not with the creation. I have a different spin on the whole Adam thing, and I look at it completely differently than they do. But I do believe those myths. I think they get misinterpreted, but I do believe the myths of Adam, and I do believe the story of Exodus and those things. I just don't think they happen quite the same as what they've been retold as, uh, but I do believe them, and so I do ground my faith in some of these myths. But at the same time, uh, my 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 religion is completely different because it's a relationship. It's not really a religion that was plotted out by. I can't pull out some. I do go by sacred scriptures. They do have a lot of meaning to me. The prophets, they show me like what God is like, if I had to describe him, I would say that the prophets do describe him really well when they show him as a romantic God, because that's how I know him, as a romantic God. I've known him for a long time, and he to me is I've told my stories, and if I start going off on those, I'll start crying, and they're just really deep, and they're wounds, and but they aren't uh, tears of sadness. They're really joy. But this relationship with the divine has been something that I've known for my whole life, and so the keys that I have are from my relationship. That they're grounded on those things. They're grounded on actual stories of what he's done in my life, and how I know him and his personality, and he's and so it's kind of a unique view. And so I wanted you to get a look at me and at least see what I look like, because I have a lot of answers to a lot of questions too. Like Revelations, that book is just like opening up to me like a comic book. I understand that book now completely. Well, not completely. There's a lot of I don't understand it, but there's it's opening up like crazy, and I understand some of these passages for the Jews have been trying to figure out. But Daniel, they all fit together. Daniel and Isaiah, and they all. I understand. I understand, and I understand where Jesus fits in, and where he doesn't fit in, and where the Christians just went. It's just but anyway, so the keys to this thing, Revelations is coming up. It's opening up right now. I know that people don't want to hear that, but we're going into the next age, and I'm trying to I'll show you. I think I know where we're going, and I'm trying to help us along this pathway, because the divine really needs to be known for who he or she is, really. And divine really is more feminine than we realize. And for me, it's very romantic. It's really romantic and a feminine touch. And it's a physical feminine presence that I know all the time. It's with me all the time, and teaching me all the time, and not just theological concepts, but practical things like at work. I do in my job at work is I run ovens for Nabisco, and I these ovens are pretty complicated to run. They're about a block long, and I have to adjust zones, and there's a really a complicated science to it that they've been using with these ovens. But since I've come out to this job, to this particular position, I've approached it like a shaman, and in actual reality, that's what I'm doing. I'm learning how to run these ovens from a divine source, and I give all the credit to them. And when I'm up there right now, and I've been doing it for years now, and when I'm up there, sorry, when I'm up there, I'm meditating and over what they think is meditating, what I explain is meditating. And I'm really communing, you know, and I'm just in this divine place of just this deepest uh, communion. But while I'm doing it, my ovens are running perfect, and he's showing me how to run these ovens, and the science that I'm using and the way that I understand it is completely different from the science that they're using. And so the way that I've been taught here in this particular plant is being demonstrated in practical terms by the output, and they're now adjusting their oven profiles to what I'm running. They don't understand. They don't know how to keep those oven profiles because their science doesn't work with it, and they haven't really asked me how. And all I'm doing is I'm writing out a profile, basically it's like a recipe, and I can't tell you too much about the job itself because of NDAs, but I think I can at least describe it to you. That I basically write a recipe, and it's a very complicated recipe, and how you get these cookies, and it's not so complicated that it can't be um, figured out what I'm doing. It's not like that. It's not like I have this secret knowledge. But people are beginning to understand how I'm seeing it. But the point is that I've seen this oven in a completely different way, and now other people are starting to adapt their science to my science. But when we run these ovens, we have to reach very specific tests, very very specific points, and we're running scientific tests on it for moisture, and all these different fats, and all these things are they're very highly controlled, and they really need to be, and it's part of our processes. But to get to these things, it's very tricky, especially with in this industry, with working with doughs and things, and how unpredictable they can be. The science doesn't work always, and their science is completely it's like an abacus to me. My science is so much better, and I'm proving it. I've been proving it for a while now, and so those are the kinds of proofs that I can offer as far as, you know, does he have this or not. I can't really pull out of my chest and show you the pleasure that I feel, but when I feel this divine touch, it's like there's no limit to it. It's like my body just like it's so it's so like to put it in sexual terms, and I have to because it's the only thing that I can even compare it to. It's like having an orgasm, but it's like your whole body feels like, as a man, your whole body would feel like the end of your penis, basically. And it's like, but in waves all over your body, and it pulsates. It can be in all kinds of expressions, and it's communication. It's by simply that touch alone, it communicates all kinds of one thing: love. And I feel overwhelmingly loved completely, so much so that I can it gets so much that I have to even go to a shower sometimes, and this doesn't happen very often, but I could do it that long to where it just gets so much I have to take a shower. I mean, it's just like but it's just wonderful, and I do it all the time. But I do it at work. I do it while driving home. I do it as much as possible, and I'm kind of driven to solitude because I like it just it, it is really highly addictive. But but and so I wanted that part is for sure. It's for real, and I know it sounds really out there, but it's what I've known for since I was 16, and I've told all those stories before about the escapes. That escape is just one of them, but it's one thing after another, and I've seen his hand, and so what I'm talking about, we're going into the next age, what I believe, and I've been woken up specifically for this. I have my coffee. I've been woken up. I've known for a long time that I had this thing coming up, and even when I got married, and my marriage was, it was a good marriage and everything, but even when I got married, I knew that this thing was going to come up, and I mentioned it to my wife, and I kind of, it was something that I knew was going to happen. So being woken up at this point in my life doesn't surprise me. And my wife and I divorced amicably, and it was perfect timing for both of us. And she's doing well, and she's going off in her own thing, and she doesn't believe what I believe, and that's okay. But we're friends, and we get along fine, and that's all part of cool. But anyway, what I wanted to talk about was we're going into the next stage, and this is my problem with these video things, is I keep going off track on that, and that's why. I don't like doing these because my mind is getting older and I get off track. So as you can see, I've already gone off track. So, but getting back to the reason why I wanted to get to this video was because I think we're going into the next age, and I'm a part of it, and I think I have the keys to a lot of it. Like I said, I understand Revelations and Daniel and how they fit together. And even with the Hopi, I understand the Daponi tablets, because they I went there and I know they don't have the tablets anymore, but I know what that their prophets were right. Their prophecies are true. They just don't understand them quite yet. But their prophecies are true. The Daponi trade plates are basically the Revelation, Daniel. They're all writings that needed a key to be unlocked, and I'm basically the key. My experience is this divine revelation thing is this divine experience is something off the map that people, you've never seen it before, you've never heard about it, you've not cared about it from your gurus, because it's something that's just happened to me. And so I have to come on here and explain things to you. Do I think I'm special? Do I have a messiah complex? Yeah, maybe a little bit, but trust me, this is just a part-time gig. I still work at the factory, and I'm not going to quit my job at the factory. I need the insurance. I'm not going to try to promote myself to you, and I don't really give a shit if you believe in me or not, but I do have the keys that'll help a lot of people reach past where they need to go, because we're on a reincarnation cycle. This is where we break that cycle. This life right here. This life is where we break that cycle. And that's what the book of Revelations is all about. It has keys of how we're going to break that cycle and how we're going to tie all these things together. And it actually predicts the end of religions. And it's going to be the end of religions as we know it, the end of Christianity, the end of Islam, all of those things. Why? And the end of Judaism too, but to a certain extent. The Judaism is a framework. Those were all like framework, like uh, like a scaffolding of what's true. But the Jewish framework was true. But the reason why it's true, and I'm getting off track again. Anyway, what do I want to say? We're going into the next age, and it's all tying in together. And even Judaism, the laws, all that stuff. You don't need that. The reason why we're not going to need that is because we're coming into a relationship with the divine ourselves, where you will have the same relation to the divine that I've known for a while. And I'm trying to explain this relationship and how it's going to work with you. So basically, I'm just like the head goose, and you're like the geese behind me. And so you're going to have to just roll with me on this, and just trust me on it. I'm not trying to promote myself, and I'm whatever. But anyway, if you can learn from me, great. If you can't, great. You're going to call me the Antichrist. Fine. That's okay. I'm fine with that. But just, I'm coming from a place of love, and the divine really loves us all. And the divine is really on our side. Are we God? No. I'm not going to tell you here that we're all God. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tell you the opposite. And that's the other thing that's going to piss you all off, because I'm not going to say, oh, we're all divine and we're all just part of it. No, you're not all divine. Yes, there's a divine thread going through all of us, and every one of us can grab onto that. But some of us aren't going to grab onto that, and some of us are, and some of us are waking up to joy, and some of us are going to get just more hardened, and the whole thing in Exodus is going to replay itself out, and people are going to either going to be sheep or they're going to be goats. You're either going to be, your ego is either going to constrict you or it'll let you go, and you need to let go. Because we can't worship ourselves. We can't worship your own image and come back into the garden. We're going back into the Garden of Eden, basically, but we're going back in naked, and you got to take off all your clothes, and you got to be known for who you are, and you can't worship yourself. I can't worship myself. None of us can. And it's the only way that we can progress back into the garden. That's basically where we're going. And that's and so I'll quote Jesus a lot because he was saying, sheep and goats, that's all you got to be. Are you a sheep or are you a goat? And you don't really have to join my religion. It's a question of coming into a relationship with the divine. And you can't come into a relationship with the divine, I believe. I think there's going to be a way for us all to simply find a way to come in on our own terms, in your own way, and by your own methods. And I'm not even going to give you a method here. If people ask me, I tell them go outside and kick off your shoes and just wait, because that's how it works for me. That's what will always work for me. And whenever I was desperate, that's what I would do. I would go camping and off in the woods, and he would always show up. But uh, again, I have to say, I'm special, it's not something that's going to be easy for you, but it might work now, and I think it might because I believe it will. So because of Revelations, I understand what it means, and it's opening up like crazy, and yeah, I've always written about all that stuff, and I've been warning people about it for a long time. But Trump is for sure the Antichrist, and Pence is the false prophet in the sense that it's portraying exactly how we've gotten into this mess, and that the evangelicals represented in Pence have created this monster in Trump, and this monster in Trump is now being presented to Israel as their false Messiah, or as a Messiah. And Pence knows, Pence and what's his name, that Jared Kushner, they know that very well, that they're pushing Trump as the Messiah, as a Messiah. And even the Jewish leaders are starting to get in line, I think, on this by saying, oh, well, there's two Messiahs, so we don't have to agree with them all the way. So they're almost prepping them, it seems like, for this false Messiah. And I'm just trying to warn the Jews, for one, that he's not the right one. Look into Daniel, because he's the prince. No, actually, to be honest, I'm the prince, but the people of the prince are my people, the Americans, and Trump is the one that's coming to destroy you. He's the man of sin. He's the scapegoat. He's not a he's not a he's not inherently bad in the sense that we should torch him to death, like anything like that, because he inherently shows our worst side, and that's why he's the man of sin. That's why we need to see him that way, because if we can see that he's forcing the whole world to worship his image, to worship his ego, and we need to see that is our problem. That's our one and only main problem, and that's the main thing that shoved us out of the garden, and why we can never go back into that garden if we worship ourselves like that guy. Trump will never get back into the garden unless he can overcome his ego, and neither will anyone else. And so the problem with these religions is they're only feeding their egos in some sense, and some of them, at some point, they need to walk away from them. And so here's what's going to happen in the Revelation. It predicts the end of Christianity, but not just Christianity. I mean, that is Satan's religion, but it's not just Satan. It's not just Christianity. It's all of those religions that have bound people up into this thing, and religions have basically been scaffolding that have been working on our egos and constricting and accusing our egos, which is actually not all that bad of a thing, because that is our problem. And so sometimes we need to agree with those religions if they did say that and not fight that. The devil isn't always wrong on some issues, but the devil, it's not like you're good and evil. It's not like we're like that. It's that we've been tricked into thinking that way, but we do need help. And there's no one that can, you have to make that choice. Otherwise, you will go back into the reincarnation cycle. And to make that choice, you need to make a series of choices. And those series of choices were already pretty much laid out with Jesus and what he said. And all you really got to do is just love each other and love God with all your heart. But the problem with, first of all, with loving God is the God that you, the God that you, what God are you going to love? His reputation has been tarnished and dragged through the mud by religions. And even Christianity, as holy as it purports to be, to believe that God had to watch a sacrifice. It's wrong. It's wrong that's an abomination. That lie is an abomination. And that's what's destroyed this earth. And this whole salvation package deal that the Christians put together is what's destroyed us. It's actually ripped us apart. And it has to be brought down. The foundation. And Jesus knew it. And he said this foundation is going to be brought down. And he predicted it all. And all those prophecies about him coming back and finding out what they've been doing in his name, those were just stories about the Jews. Like they don't want to pin those on the Jews. That wasn't about the Jews. Those are prophecies about the church. The Jews, it wasn't their fault. And this was all, the whole thing was, Revelations also reveals what happens to the Jews. And they're actually heroes. The Jews are actually heroes. And they should be exonerated, really, as a people for what they put up with, being blamed for that crucifixion, because it wasn't their fault. And they, as a people, they've shared in his sufferings, and in a fucked up kind of way. Yeah, they're all washed in his blood, but because I think they've had to reincarnate into those lives over and over again, and be shamed and had to be, ridiculed and for it was a lie. It was a lie, the whole thing. Sorry. I knew it would stop me, but I'm not gonna edit it out. You can see this. Because this is the heart of God. Look. They're just people. They're not all perfect, and they're a bunch of assholes too. Some of them, and they're gonna get ripped into twos. There's sheep and goats in the Jewish people too. Don't worry about that. They ain't saying they're all perfect, and I'm not racist like that either. But what I am saying is that they've, as a people, have gone through shit, and we do reincarnate within our own heritages, within our own cultures, within our own tribes. We do tend to, and so that's why that culture really needed to stay alive, and why they deserve honor for holding these myths, because these myths are the keys to us returning back into that garden. They're the only way we're going to ever get back into the garden is because, and they do have that key. The keys are there. But anyway, I didn't want to go into too much detail, and I don't even know where else I'm going to go with this. To be honest, I just wanted you to get a look at me, and if you think I'm the devil or whatever. That's fine. I don't really care. If you think I'm psychotic or crazy, it's cool. I kind of get it. I actually don't think I've lost a lot of friends, and most of them were actually, in all honesty, were my wife's friends. And when we got divorced, they went with her, and so I unfriended them all of them, and hardly any of them came back. And even people that I've worked with in bands and stuff never came back. But it's not that I'm in person. I'm okay. I do have intensity to me, and I think people probably do avoid me because, well, look at me. I got to look at the serial killer and watch. So I have a natural look that drives people away, and it's kind of worked in my advantage to a lot. But in person, I'm actually not that bad. I actually like to have fun, and I actually like to joke, and we have fun chatting around the break room stuff when I'm around. But I tend to be very isolated, so I wanted you to at least see what kind of a person I am, and you can figure out yourself if you think I'm crazy, or if you think I'm the Antichrist, or if you think whatever you want to think. I don't really care. But anyway, that's it. Bye.